What is going on in this character? We have a Valdir's Chalice and a Blade Dancer. So let's poke around and see what we can learn about this and if we can say anything intelligent about it. There's a Humming Beam. Got it. All right, so this is a Puncture, Bleed, Armor Shred build. The classic. If you've been around here for a while, you've seen many people playing the old Armor Shred Bleed build. Those don't do anything. So Bleed is physical damage, but Armor only mitigates hit damage. So if you're a Bleed build, then all of this is useless. And if you're a Armor Shred build, you're probably not inflicting bleeds. So what you might be interested in is like these nodes down here for some extra attack speed. They feel pretty good. Some Fizz Shred tends to be good as well. You want to get tiny little damage modifiers over here. Every third deals extra damage. This is kind of like a 6.3% more damage multiplier, which is fine, but you know, it is what it is. Puncture tends not to be good as a primary source of damage because it just doesn't scale that well. Like it's got like a more damage multiplier, kind of. So you'd like to have something else. What's going on Shift? You're not doing shurikens. You're not taking the good notes in Smoke Bomb. You have more Armor Shred. And Decoy's doing something with Armor Shred. So I think the biggest takeaway from this is that Armor Shred does not benefit you. We probably need to go back to the drawing board. Let's see. Bleed. Bleed on hit with Equipped Sword. Bleed. Damage. Bleed. Sure. Damage roll using a sword. Stuff. It kind of feels like we're all over the place. I'm surprised to see you using a Salt the Wound and not using a Katana. I don't know what this Humming Bee does. Humming Bee has a melee attack speed. Elemental damage. Ward on melee hit. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. I like these nodes though. Skipping out on defense is never a good choice. I would highly recommend, instead of not having defense, having defense. So let's trim a couple nodes in the Marksman skill tree. And we will go into this to get a bunch of Glancing Blow. The stuff across the top is fine. I like it. We're dual wielding. That's fine. And then in Blade Dancer, we've once again skipped all defense. This reminds me of somebody showing me a build in Path of Exile years ago, where they said they were going low life, but they actually just had like 1,000 life. And then we had to explain to them that being low on life is not quite the same as being low life. So we're a melee attack speed build. Let's go like this. 5 points here. Bleed chance per equipped sword. Fine. A couple nodes here, a couple nodes there. I don't know about going ham on all of these points because I give a couple things that are really valuable to you. So 5 points here. Melee attack speed. Sweet. We're dual wielding swords. Gives us a bunch of glancing blows. So that's great. So this is 40. 40. 16. 56. 56. 66. 71. So we're like 71 before Dust Rods went on. Let's see, what is this? Less damage, yeah. Crit vulnerability, stuff. Things you'll probably be interested in are putting 1 point in Argent Veil in terms of defense. This gives you a Silver Shroud when you drop below 70% health. More points in this only scales how much ward you get, which is not particularly interesting to you, but just putting 1 point in here for the Silver Shroud is excellent. In a similar way, taking a look at the skill tree in Smoke Bomb. Puncture bleed chance. If used inside Smoke Bomb. Let's trim all the Armor Shred stuff because that's obviously doing nothing for us. We'll put 1, 2, 3. These points right here give you access to one Silver Shroud as soon as you use Smoke Bomb. So I would recommend always taking these nodes. Duration's great. Putting a bunch of nodes in this for Dust Shroud frequency tends to be what I do almost all the time. And then you have some puncture stuff, Shadow Chance. Melee Leech, we don't need that. I think this is fine. I might also put a point in Slow Stacks. Yeah, it applies each second. Yeah, why not? Covers a larger area. You can go like larger area if you wanted to as well. But yeah, I think roughly speaking, this is fine. And then going back to the shift stuff. After shifting, your next one skill does stuff. You have a chance to cause bleeding with your next one skill. I'm not big on these. because you're a melee character, I would recommend just having defense. So I'm going to grab all the nodes in sleight of hand over here. And then we have, what is this thing? Shorter cooldown, costs less mana. It's already a pretty short cooldown. I'm a big fan of speccing my stuff like this. So I don't know if you're going to end up needing decoy, because decoy is something that you can have unspec'd. Currently, you're using it for like +1 charge and armor shred. It's like that's doing nothing for you. So having decoy unspec'd on your bar and then just proccing your shurikens tends to be pretty good. So shurikens gives you a ton of extra armor, which keeps you alive because you're a melee character. So something like this looks pretty good to me. Do we need anything else here? We have like the fizz shred, all this. Nothing else really matters. Yeah, you can fill in the last 1 or 2 points, however you see fit. We have 1 point here. If you want to do a kill threshold, you can. You could trim 1 point in elusive and go like this if you'd like to, proccing Shadow Cascade. Shadow Cascade hits. It can apply bleeds for you. It helps to clear a little bit faster because like shift is melee, like, you know, it's a melee skill, right? But if you did this, like your clearing is augmented a little bit by Shadow Cascade, but Puncture itself just really doesn't have much damage on it. So what I think you'd end up doing if you wanted to play this, like these first 4 skills, you'd need something that does significant single target damage. Because like Puncture ain't it, right? So, whoops, I just unspec Puncture. Well, let's go like this. So I think what you'd be interested in, let's go like this, this kind of thing. I think what you'd be interested in is instead of Shadow Cascade here, maybe just relying on something else. Like what's a good single target solution that goes along with Puncture? And as a melee character, I think you have 2 options. You can either Flurry, which would look something like this. So this would be like channeled Flurry, bunch of attack speed, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then you want these melee nodes on the bottom right side to make them hit in a bigger shockwave. So something along these lines is a good way of getting some extra deeps for single target. Not as good as it used to be, but it's still quite good. So I'm still happy with it. The other option would be you could kind of change your build into being Umbral Blades. It's like, have you met Umbral Blades? So you could. Umbral Blades pretty good. It kind of pivots the build into being a throwing character. It's kind of insidious. It kind of fundamentally changes what your build is because Umbral Blades is so strong that it kind of overlaps everything else in your build. You could do it as an explodey thing. You could do it as a spinny thing. You could do it as quality of life. You can do any flavor of Umbral Blades as long as it's Umbral Blades. It's kind of like you can get a Ford in any color you want as long as it's black. So you can do that. If you wanted to preserve how melee the build feels, then you probably just go with channeled melee flurry, and it's cool. Umbral Blades, unfortunately, is still flippin' strong, and I think bleed Umbral Blades, along with most of what's going on here, or at least what is trying to be going on here, would work out quite well. Of course, if you're going Umbral Blades instead of having bleed on melee hit, you'd want to go something like a Dragon Bone Axe instead, because it has that generic chance to bleed on hit. If you're going for a Salt the Wound setup, you're rewarded for having crit multi in your build. So you'd probably want to, instead of using Humming Bee, use something that has crit multi in your build, because then that helps to increase your deeps. Damage rolling a sword, stuff. Physical damage, hybrid cleanse. That is I would use this Thornslinger on almost every build if I had it. Quite the nice Thornslinger you have there, my friend. Cool. So that's a couple pieces of feedback for the character. A couple things we had to touch on, like the whole armor shred thing. Remember, if you're playing damage over time, armor shred does nothing for you. But yeah, we cleaned it up a little bit. We didn't min-max the character, but I think for where this person's at, we gave some good feedback so that they can keep working on the character. Cool.